The forest of Tharks was unlike anything Lachlan Lockymore had ever encountered. Towering, ancient trees twisted towards the sky, their gnarled branches forming a dense canopy that filtered the ethereal light into a mystical glow. A soft mist clung to the forest floor, swirling around Locky's feet as he carefully navigated the uneven terrain. Beside him, his loyal companion, Shadow, moved with a predator's grace, his black fur blending seamlessly with the shadows. "This place is incredible, isn't it, Shadow?" Lackey murmured, crouching to examine a peculiar, luminescent plant. "I can't wait to see what else we discover." Shadow's ears perked up, and a low growl rumbled from his chest. Lackey straightened, his senses on high alert. The forest, previously silent except for the rustle of leaves, now seemed alive with an undercurrent of tension. Shadow's growl deepened, and Lackey followed his gaze into the thick underbrush, his heart pounding. Suddenly, the tranquility shattered. Tharksian warriors emerged from the mist, their forms tall and imposing, armed with weapons that gleamed ominously in the diffused light. They moved with a fluid, almost otherworldly grace, surrounding Lackey and Shadow in a matter of seconds. "You dare trespass in sacred territory," Human boomed a voice. Lackey turned to face the speaker, a Tharksian warrior with a commanding presence and eyes that gleamed with suspicion. "Prepare to face judgment." "Wait. We're not here to cause trouble. I'm an explorer, and this is my dog, Shadow. We mean no harm." The Tharksian's gaze shifted to Shadow, who stood protectively in front of Lackey, teeth bared. The warriors murmured amongst themselves, their fear palpable. To them, Shadow's appearance matched the descriptions of a legendary beast said to haunt the forest. "Your presence here disrupts the balance," the leader declared, his voice cold. "How can we trust your words?" Before Lackey could respond, the Tharksians moved with lightning speed. Shadow lunged, but was quickly subdued by a net that crackled with energy, sending him to the ground with a whimper. Lackey rushed to his side, only to be grabbed and bound by the warriors. "It's okay, boy," Lackey whispered to Shadow, his voice filled with a mixture of fear and reassurance. "Stay calm. We'll find a way out of this." The Tharksian village loomed ahead, a settlement woven seamlessly into the natural landscape. Bioluminescent plants and intricately carved symbols adorned the structures, casting an eerie, beautiful light. Lackey and Shadow were dragged through the village, their captors' expressions a mix of curiosity and hostility. They were taken to an ancient hall, its walls adorned with relics and symbols of Tharksian culture. Lackey was forced to his knees before a council of elders, their eyes piercing and judgmental. "This human brings a beast into our sacred land," one elder intoned. "How can we trust him?" Lackey took a deep breath, trying to steady his racing heart. "Shadow is not a monster. He's my friend, my companion. We mean no harm." The council's murmurs grew louder, and Lackey sensed their fear and distrust. He knew he had to find a way to prove Shadow's innocence and his own peaceful intentions. But as the Tharksian leader, Zeril, stepped forward with a grim expression, Lackey realized their fate hung by a thread. "You have one chance to prove your words," Zeril declared. "Fail, and you both shall face the consequences." Lackey nodded, determination hardening in his eyes. "I won't fail." As they were led away to prepare for the demonstration, Lackey couldn't shake the feeling that their situation was more perilous than it seemed. Shadow's life and possibly the future of human-Tharksian relations depended on his ability to convince these aliens that they were not the monsters they feared. The ancient hall was silent, the air thick with anticipation, as Lackey stood before the Tharksian council. The elders, their faces lined with wisdom and suspicion, watched him intently. Zeril, the stern leader, stood at the forefront, his eyes piercing through Lackey. "Shadow is a dog, not a monster," Lackey began, his voice steady but filled with urgency. "He's loyal and protective, but he means no harm. Let me show you." An elder with silver hair and a deep, resonant voice spoke up. "Legends speak of a beast with black fur and glowing eyes, a harbinger of doom. Your creature fits this description. How can we trust your words?" Lackey felt a knot tighten in his stomach. He knew the stakes were high. Please, give me a chance to prove Shadow's innocence. We've come here to explore and learn, not to bring harm. Zeral's expression remained stony. You have one chance, human. If you fail, both of you will pay the ultimate price. Lackey nodded, determination burning in his eyes. Thank you. He was escorted to a small enclosure where Shadow was being held, the dog's eyes bright with intelligence and loyalty despite the confinement. Lackey knelt beside him, his hand gently resting on Shadow's head. We're in a tight spot, boy. But I know we can show them the truth. Shadow nuzzled Lackey's hand, a gesture of reassurance. Lackey took a deep breath, gathering his thoughts. He had to demonstrate not just Shadow's harmlessness, but also the bond they shared, one built on trust and mutual respect. The next morning, the village gathered in a large clearing, the air buzzing with curiosity and tension. Lakshi and Shadow stood at the center, surrounded by Tharxians. The council watched from a raised platform, their expressions unreadable. Lackey began, his voice carrying across the clearing. Shadow is more than a pet. He's my friend, my protector. Let me show you. He commanded Shadow to sit, then to lie down, each command executed flawlessly. The Tharxians murmured among themselves, their skepticism wavering. Lackey continued, guiding Shadow through a series of tasks that showcased his obedience and gentle nature. This is a creature capable of great loyalty, Lackey said, his voice filled with emotion. Not a monster. Just as it seemed, the demonstration was swaying the crowd. A sudden roar shattered the calm. From the edge of the forest, a real monster emerged, a towering beast with scales and claws, its eyes burning with fury. Panic rippled through the crowd as the creature advanced, its presence a stark contrast to Shadow's calm demeanor. Zeral shouted commands, but the Tharxians were frozen with fear. Lackey knew this was their moment. Shadow, stay close, he yelled, sprinting towards the beast. Shadow followed, a blur of black fur. Lackey and Shadow moved as one, their bond evident in every coordinated action. Lackey distracted the monster, using his knowledge of the forest to lead it away from the villagers. Shadow lunged at the beast, aiming for its vulnerable spots. In a flurry of motion, they managed to drive the monster back into the forest, the threat neutralized. The clearing fell silent, the Tharxians staring in awe at the duo. Zeral stepped forward, his eyes no longer filled with suspicion, but with a newfound respect. You have proven your worth, human. Your companion is no monster. He is a hero. Relief washed over Lackey as he patted Shadow's head. Thank you, Exeral. All we wanted was to show that we come in peace. As the village erupted in cautious applause, Lackey knew that the demonstration had not only saved their lives, but had also paved the way for a deeper understanding between humans and Tharxians. The real challenge, however, was just beginning. The night was quiet, but Lackey's mind was anything but. He and Shadow had been given a small tent on the outskirts of the village to prepare for the demonstration. Lackey sat cross-legged, a small lantern casting a warm glow as he pored over his notes and plans. Shadow lay beside him, eyes watchful and ears twitching at every sound. This has to work, Shadow, Lackey murmured, scratching the dog behind his ears. We have one chance to prove ourselves. Shadow nuzzled his hand, sensing his master's tension. Lackey took a deep breath, steadying his thoughts. The Tharxians were a proud and cautious people, their trust hard to earn. But he knew that showcasing Shadow's intelligence and loyalty would be the key. Morning arrived with a dense fog enveloping the village. Lackey and Shadow made their way to the clearing, where the Tharxians had gathered once more. The council sat on their elevated platform, Zeral at the center, his gaze stern but attentive. Lackey stood tall, addressing the crowd. Thank you for giving us this opportunity. I hope to show you that Shadow is a friend, not a foe. He started with simple commands, demonstrating Shadow's obedience and responsiveness. Shadow, sit. The dog sat instantly. Lie down. Shadow complied without hesitation. The crowd watched in silence, their expressions a mix of curiosity and doubt. As Lackey guided Shadow through more complex tasks, retrieving objects, navigating obstacles, the murmurs of the Tharxians grew louder, shifting from skepticism to genuine intrigue. Lakshi felt a flicker of hope. They were starting to see Shadow's true nature. "Shadow, stay," Lakshi commanded. He walked away, turning to face the council. "This is trust. He won't move until I call him." Shadow remained still, his eyes fixed on Lakshi, embodying calm and discipline. Then, a voice cut through the quiet. "If this beast is so loyal, let him protect you from harm." It was one of the more skeptical elders, his tone challenging. Laki's heart skipped a beat, but he kept his composure. "Very well. Shadow, guard." At that moment, a Tharxian warrior approached Lakshi, brandishing a wooden staff. Shadow's posture changed immediately, his body tense and alert, but he did not move. The warrior swung the staff in a mock attack, and Shadow leapt forward, intercepting the blow with a growl. But he stopped short of causing harm, merely deflecting the attack. The crowd gasped, their amazement palpable. Lakshi turned to the council, his voice steady. "Shadow is protective, but he knows the difference between friend and foe. He acts only to defend, never to harm." Ziral's eyes held a new respect. "You have proven much, human. But your final test awaits." Before Lakshi could respond, a commotion erupted at the village's edge. The same monstrous beast from the previous day emerged from the forest, its roar echoing through the clearing. Panic spread among the Tharxians as the creature advanced, its eyes filled with fury. Lakshi's heart pounded. "Shadow, with me," he shouted, sprinting towards the beast. Shadow followed, his black fur a blur of motion. The battle was swift and intense. Lakshi and Shadow moved in perfect harmony, their actions coordinated and precise. Lakshi used his knowledge of the forest to outmaneuver the creature, while Shadow attacked with calculated ferocity. Together, they drove the beast back, their teamwork a testament to their bond. As the creature retreated into the depths of the forest, a hush fell over the village. The Tharxians stared at Lakshi and Shadow, their expressions a mix of awe and gratitude. Ziral stepped forward, his voice ringing with sincerity. "You have done more than prove your worth. You have saved us once again. We welcome you as friends and allies." Lakshi knelt beside Shadow, his hand resting on the dog's head. "Thank you, Ziral. We're honored." The Tharxians' cheers echoed through the clearing, a sound of acceptance and newfound trust. Lakshi knew their journey was far from over, but in that moment, they had taken a significant step towards a brighter future. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm, golden hue over the Tharxian village. The once hostile atmosphere had transformed into one of cautious camaraderie. Lakshi and Shadow were now seen as allies, not intruders. As evening settled, Ziral approached Lakshi, his demeanor more relaxed than ever before. "Walk with me, Lakshi," Ziral said, gesturing towards the forest's edge. Lakshi nodded, whistling for Shadow to follow. They strolled along a path lined with bioluminescent plants, their soft glow illuminating the way. "I must admit," Ziral began, his tone contemplative, "when you first arrived, I saw you as a threat. But your actions have shown me the strength of your bond with Shadow." Lakshi smiled, looking down at his loyal companion. "Shadow's more than just a pet. He's family. We've been through a lot together, and he's always been by my side." The sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm, golden hue over the Tharxian village. The once hostile atmosphere had transformed into one of cautious camaraderie. Lakshi and Shadow were now seen as allies, not intruders. As evening settled, Ziral approached Lakshi, his demeanor more relaxed than ever before. "Walk with me, Lakshi," Ziral said, gesturing towards the forest's edge. Lakshi nodded, whistling for Shadow to follow. They strolled along a path lined with bioluminescent plants, their soft glow illuminating the way. "I must admit," Ziral began, his tone contemplative, "when you first arrived, I saw you as a threat. But your actions have shown me the strength of your bond with Shadow." Lakshi smiled, looking down at his loyal companion. "Shadow's more than just a pet. He's family. We've been through a lot together, and he's always been by my side." Ziral nodded, his eyes distant as he recalled the legends of the forest. "The beast you fought was real, not just a myth." It's a creature that's terrorized our people for generations. Your bravery has saved many lives." They walked in silence for a moment, the only sounds being the rustling of leaves and the distant calls of nocturnal creatures. Lachi sensed there was more on Zeral's mind. "There's something else, isn't there?" Lachi prompted gently. Cyril sighed, his shoulders sagging slightly. "Yes. The beast's presence indicates a greater danger. Our ancestors spoke of a time when the balance of nature would be disrupted, leading to chaos and destruction. I fear we are on the brink of such a time." Lachi's brow furrowed. "Is there anything we can do to help?" Cyril looked at him, hope flickering in his eyes. "There is an ancient artifact, the Heart of Tharks, said to possess the power to restore balance. But it was lost long ago, deep within the Forbidden Caves. No Tharksian has ventured there and returned." Lachi felt a surge of determination. "Then we'll find it. Shadow and I will go into the caves and retrieve the Heart of Tharks." Cyril's eyes widened in surprise. "You would risk your lives for us?" Lachi nodded firmly. "We've come this far together. We're not turning back now." The next morning, preparations were made for the expedition. The village buzzed with activity as Tharksians and humans worked side by side. Supplies were gathered, maps were drawn, and strategies were discussed. As Lachi and Shadow stood at the entrance of the Forbidden Caves, the villagers gathered to see them off. Zeril approached, handing Lachi a small, intricately carved pendant. "This belonged to my ancestor, the last one who sought the Heart of Tharks. May it bring you luck and protection." Lachi accepted the pendant with gratitude. "Thank you, Zeril. We'll bring it back." With a final nod, Lachi and Shadow entered the cave, their path illuminated by the soft glow of their lantern. The air was cool and damp, the walls adorned with ancient symbols and carvings. The deeper they went, the narrower the passage became, the darkness pressing in around them. "Stay close, Shadow," Lachi whispered, his voice echoing off the cavern walls. The journey through the caves was treacherous. They navigated through narrow passages, climbed over jagged rocks, and crossed deep chasms. Each step was a test of their endurance and resolve. Hours turned into what felt like days, but finally they reached a vast chamber. At its center stood a pedestal, upon which rested a glowing, heart-shaped crystal, the Heart of Tharks. Lachi's breath caught in his throat at the sight. "We found it, Shadow," he whispered, approaching the pedestal cautiously. He reached out, his fingers closing around the cool, smooth surface of the crystal. As he lifted it, the chamber trembled, and a deep, resonant hum filled the air. "Time to go," Lachi said, urgency in his voice. Shadow barked in agreement, and they began their journey back, the Heart of Tharks clutched tightly in Lachi's hand. The return trip was just as perilous, but the thought of restoring balance and saving the Tharksian people fueled their determination. Emerging from the cave, they were greeted by the relieved and grateful faces of the villagers. Cyril stepped forward, his eyes shining with gratitude and awe. "You have done the impossible," Cyril said, his voice thick with emotion. "The Heart of Tharks will bring peace and prosperity to our land once more." Lachi smiled, exhaustion and relief washing over him. "We couldn't have done it without each other." As the village celebrated their heroes, Lachi and Shadow stood side by side, knowing that their journey had not only forged a lasting bond with the Tharksians, but also reaffirmed the unbreakable bond between a man and his faithful companion. The celebration in the Tharksian village lasted well into the night, with laughter, music, and shared stories filling the air. Lachi and Shadow were the guests of honor, their heroic deeds recounted around the communal fire. Yet, amid the joy, Lachi felt a lingering weight. His mission was not yet complete. At dawn, Lachi met with Zeril and the council in the central hall. The Heart of Tharks rested on a ceremonial stand, its glow pulsating gently. The air was thick with anticipation and reverence. "Now that we have the heart," Zeril said, his voice solemn, "we must perform the rite of renewal to restore balance to our land. It is a ritual passed down through generations, but it requires a human's touch to activate its full potential." Lachi stepped forward, feeling the gravity of the moment. "What do I need to do?" Cyril handed him an ancient scroll, the parchment delicate with age. Recite these words while holding the heart. Your bond with Shadow, a symbol of loyalty and courage, will amplify its power. Lackey nodded, taking the scroll with a steady hand. He glanced at Shadow, who sat alert and ready, then turned back to the council. We're ready. The villagers gathered in a sacred grove, a place where the energy of the land converged. Lackey stood at the center, the heart of Tharks in his hands, its light casting ethereal patterns on the surrounding trees. Shadow stood beside him, a silent sentinel. Taking a deep breath, Lackey began to recite the ancient words, his voice steady and clear. The language was unfamiliar, yet it flowed smoothly from his lips, resonating with a power that seemed to awaken the very earth beneath his feet. As he spoke, the heart's glow intensified, enveloping Lackey and Shadow in a warm, radiant light. The villagers watched in awe, their faces reflecting the hope and wonder of the moment. The ground trembled gently, and a soft wind rustled the leaves, carrying with it a sense of renewal and promise. Lackey felt a connection to the land, the Tharksians, and to Shadow, deepening with each word. The final phrase left his lips, and a brilliant flash of light erupted from the heart, spreading outward in waves of pure energy. When the light subsided, the grove was bathed in a serene golden glow. The air felt fresher, the colors more vibrant. The villagers cheered, their voices a symphony of relief and gratitude. Lackey knelt, placing the heart back on its stand, feeling a profound sense of accomplishment. Zeril approached, his eyes glistening with unshed tears. You have done it, Lackey. The balance is restored, thanks to you and Shadow. Lackey stood, embracing Zeril warmly. We couldn't have done it without your trust and guidance. Shadow barked happily, wagging his tail as children ran up to pet him, their laughter ringing through the grove. The bond between humans and Tharksians had been solidified, a new era of unity and cooperation dawning. In the days that followed, Lackey and Shadow became integral members of the village, sharing knowledge and learning from the Tharksians. Together, they worked on rebuilding and enhancing the village, using their combined strengths to create a harmonious community. One evening, as they sat by the fire, Zeril spoke of the future. With the heart's power, we can achieve great things. Our peoples will thrive together, and this alliance will be remembered for generations. Lackey nodded, feeling a deep sense of belonging. We're not just visitors anymore. This is our home, too. Shadow rested his head on Lackey's lap, his eyes reflecting the contentment and peace that now permeated the village. Lackey looked around, seeing the smiles, hearing the laughter, and felt a warmth in his heart. They had come as strangers, but were leaving as family. As the stars twinkled above, Lackey knew their journey was just beginning. There were still many adventures to be had, many challenges to overcome, but with Shadow by his side and the Tharksians as allies, there was nothing they couldn't achieve. Together, they had proven that humanity's strength lay not in domination, but in unity, trust, and the unbreakable bonds of friendship.